Welcome back to Everyday Race. So today I've decided to take apart this 2.3 liter short block that came out of my 95 Ford Ranger with over 300,000 miles, that had the cylinder head that most of the valves were leaking, and it was not running worth anything. So let's get the oil pan, this filthy thing, off. Alright, so today's plan is to take it apart and measure some of the things and see if it's rebuildable, reusable, or just scrap. Now, the crankshaft spins fairly easy, and if I had to guess, I'd say even with 300,000 miles, the main and rod bearings are probably going to be okay. But I'm also interested in a couple of other things, such as crankshaft free play and piston ring gaps. So here I got a piece of paper. I put some info. Main bearing torque, crankshaft free end play should be between 0.004 and 0.008. It's all measured in inches or foot-pounds. The ring gap, main bearings, and rod bearing clearances are the same. So first, let's measure the crankshaft end play. What that means is that how much the crankshaft moves back and forth. So for that, I'm going to use this tool right here. And if that is out of spec, if there are no thrust bearings in there, that means the crankshaft or the block is not a good candidate to reuse. So let's push the crankshaft all the way back. Come on now. I'm gonna put it like that. Tighten it up. Alright. Next we're going to zero this out. Come on, quit moving. Alright, so we're looking at between point zero. We're looking between 0.004 of an inch to 0.008. If it's over 0.012, that means it's not very good. So let me push the crankshaft in, out. Let's get it to 0. In, out, in, out, in. Alright, so we're looking at 0.075. So it's right between the 0.004 and 0.008. So that means the end play is good. So now we can take this apart. Take this off. And get to the fun part. So let's start with the connecting rods. Alright, so next I'm going to remove each and every one of those connecting rod caps by removing the nuts and inspecting the bearings. For example, number 1 bearing has some wear. Alright, you can push the piston out. Alright, I like to keep everything together. We're then going to inspect the piston once I pull every one of them. Let's go with the number 2. Same process. Alright, this bearing has some wear, but it's not as bad. So let's clean this sucker up. Yeah, crankshaft looks okay. So that's number 2. And what I decided just to keep them on the crankshaft and then just pull them all out at the same time. Alright, so now I gotta remove the oil pump screen. This should be 10 mil. Boom, right in the money. Perfect. Alright, that's off. Number 3. Okay, see that? I see 2 scratches. Crankshaft looks to be okay. Alright, so next let's go take the cylinder number 4. Alright, same story. Some scratches and some wear. Alright, so now next let's go ahead and remove all the pistons. So I'm just gonna flip the engine over and remove them one by one. Let's take number 2. Let's get number 3. And might as well do the number 4. I just want to keep them in correct order. That's the easiest way of doing it. Here they are. All right, number 2. Number 3. And number 4. Number 4 was a little tight. Alright, so I got all the pistons and rods out, and this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's look at the bearing. Number 1, bottom bearing is pretty bad. Well, it's not bad, but didn't damage the crank, but it's got a lot of wear. Number 2, not as much. Number 3 is about the same as the number 2, and number 4 has about as much wear as a number 1. So next thing I want to do is I'm going to pull the mains out and look at the bearings. I'm going to make it quick because it's like 100 4 degrees outside, and my camera is not liking the hot weather, so I'm gonna remove these real quick. See what we got there. Alright, gonna need more oomph. Alright, let's start. All the bolts are out. I'll put the nut back on there. Alright, so let's start the other in there. Alright. Get the paper towel. It's got wear on it, but it's not really that bad. You'd probably go another 100,000 miles. So that's a surprise. I think the rest of them are going to be about the same. Okay. Yeah, this one's got more wear on it. You can see it's shiny in the center, but it's kind of yellowish on the sides. So pretty impressive for a 300,000 mile engine that hasn't been really maintained. This one's got more wear. Alright. Let's see what this one looks like. Alright, now this one's the worst one. See how it's dull in the center? So, this one's definitely would not be reusable. I mean, you could, but it'd be a waste of. piston wants to come out. It's just being a little baby. Rear main seal is holding it together. I think that's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. I'm going to remove rear main seal. That way it'll be easier to remove the cap. Alright, so I removed the rear main seal. It was stuck on there even though it was leaking. It was a little bit of pain to get it out of there. So let's lift up the last cap. And this one's got, I think this one's got the most wear. So let's look at the crankshaft. As you can see, the crankshaft looks very good to the naked eye. It doesn't mean that it's not worn down, but it doesn't have any gouges, so it's probably got to pull it out, measure it, and it's probably good to go. Maybe have to polish the journals, but besides that, it's really not that bad. The bearings didn't go bad, like brake pads going to the metal and then ruining the rotor. That's kind of like these bearings are. So alright, so I'm going to put everything, all the main caps back in there because I got something else I want to do with it before the crankshaft can come out. The next thing I want to do is look at the pistons and see what condition they're in. Alright, so I'll flip the engine over. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I also flipped the pistons over since they were 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this one's 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to keep them all at the same condition, but first let's look at the cylinders. And you can still see cross hatch on cylinder number 1. Not really much of damage. This one you can sort of see rust since it's been sitting for a couple of weeks already, or the same thing with this one. And let's see, number 4. Yeah, so the cylinders don't look bad at all. Next, let's look at the pistons. Now there's usually I look at the skirts, and you can see somewhere, I'll tell you what, it might be a reusable piston. Let's look at the other side. Yeah, very small amount of wear. I'm pretty surprised. Now let's look at the number 2, piston number 2. Same thing, just a very small amount of wear. Right here you can see small scratches. Let's look at the other side. And the other side is pretty good. So that's usually where the pistons wear out. Alright, number 3. Very small, if any, wear on this side. And yeah, pretty good on this side. So So far, number one piston had the most wear. Alright, so see the small scratch here? Yeah. Not bad. Not bad at all, to tell you the truth. What I'm not crazy about, here's the problem. Alright, so let's look at the piston ring, this ring at the top, and I'm pushing it. See, and it's moving back and forth with some carbon. Now number 2 is moving too. See how it's moving around? So that's a good sign. It's supposed to move. And then the third, you see the small 2 rings and this S shape. That's a oil ring, and you see I'm trying to move it. See, like it doesn't have a lot of tension on it. Yeah, the oil rings are definitely shot. Well, they're still moving, but they're not moving very good. Not as good as the 2 compression rings. Now let's look at the number 3. Alright. The top 2 rings are moving just fine. And the oil ring is moving. It's better than, see I'm pushing it from the back. It's moving around. It's not great, but it was moving. So piston number 2, 2 top ones are moving, and the oil ring is okay on this one too. And number 1 with the most wear, yeah, the piston rings are moving. Yeah, and oil rings are moving too. So far, number 1 piston had the most wear on the side skirts. But cylinder number 4 piston oil ring was in the worst shape. Still usable, but not 100%. So we're not done yet. We're getting close. Alright, so my phone was being a little sissy. It keeps overheating after 7 minutes. So what I ended up doing is removing the rings. So I've got rings from cylinder number 1, that's the top ring, and it had a little bit of like a hot spot all the way at the bottom. The second ring, same thing. See, it has the difference is it's got a small ridge. So the way I pulled them out, I'm going to show you. I left the rings on the cylinder on the piston number 4. That way you could see how I remove rings. It's quite simple. You just grab one and slide it off. Boom, just like this. Now put it like that at the very top. Same thing for the second one. You just got to be more careful not to break it. And they're off. So let's put the reason I'm removing the rings is because I want to measure a ring gap. Ring gap can tell you a lot about how much wear the rings have, because when you put them in the cylinder, this gap would decrease, and you measure the distance between one end and the other end. So for that, I'm going to need my filler gauges, and they're here somewhere. There they are. There we go. So let's get this party started. This is the filler gauges. They all got numbers, millimeters and inches, and they're all different thicknesses. So let's start with the cylinder number 1 with the top ring. You just stick it in there like so. Boom. To make it even, just use a piston, just like that. And then we're going to measure the ring gap. So let's start with the skinniest one. Goes in just fine. Let's get this one in there. It's going in just fine. Go to this one. It's going in just fine. 0.016. Same thing. So step up to step up to 0.020. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna have to use the thickest one, 0.026 of an inch. And it's bigger than that, so it's got a pretty good wear, so we got to combine 2. So let's take 0.08. There we go. We're going to take 0.01 and 0.012. That will give us 0.022. Well, we need something thicker, so 0.012 and 0.013 would be 0.025. Nope. Let's move on to 0.014, and 0.013 would be 0.027. Combine them together, and they go in just fine. So the rings are pretty used up. Alright, so let's go with 0.031. I'm going to combine 0.015 and 0.016. Altogether is 0.031. Okay, doesn't fit. It means we're getting real close. So 0.015 and 0.014 would be 0.029. Nope. 0.029 is not it, so let's do a 0.027. Alright, let's go. Goes in just fine. Alright, so it's .014 and .015. So it's .029 is the ring gap for the number 1 cylinder. So that's a pretty big gap. Could have put a turbo in there. It would have been just fine. Let's measure the second ring. Put it in there like so. We're going to use a piston. Just like that. So let's try .029 on that one. Nope. Alright, so we're going to do .0227. I think it's going to be just about .027. Fits pretty good. It's .028 on the second ring on the number 1 cylinder. So let's check out number 2 cylinder. So it's a .029. Nope. .027. No. So this one's this has got a less wear. Okay, .026. That's .27. Duh. Okay, .025. Let's try that. Nope. Alright, so let's try .0. Alright, so last but not least, let's measure the ring gap of cylinder number 4 top ring. Now you can also measure, if you don't have the tools, you can measure if cylinder is out of round by measuring ring gap on the side or by measuring it right here. And the reason I'm measuring the ring gap all the way at the top is because the cylinder is the smallest at the very top, and it gets bigger as you go to the bottom. So let's measure it. Let's start with .026 of an inch. And that's it. It's pretty tight in there. So that one's .026. Now let me show you. I'll push the ring closer to the bottom. Let's try to measure it. And it's very loose. Very loose. So the cylinder is bigger. It's kind of like a cone. It's narrow at the bottom and it's wider at the top because piston moves around. So this one's up .026, and that's the top ring, cylinder number 4. Now let's measure a second ring. Alright, let's use the piston to be It's all about being consistent. Just like that. And 0.026 doesn't fit. So let's try 0.025. And it's 0.025 for the second ring on cylinder number 4. So let me go look over all the data and we'll have a conclusion. Alright, so conclusion. The block wasn't bad, besides it's leaking from just about everything, every place. The cylinders were not bad at all. Probably can be honed down and reused, so it's not bad. Pistons, for a budget build, you could probably reuse the pistons. The rings gotta go. The rings are junk. There's no way to. The ring gap was just way too big, too much blow by. So they gotta go. Main bearings are shot. Not usable, not even for a budget build. Rod bearings, the same story. They're cheap enough. You gotta replace them. Connecting rods and pistons, they were okay to use. Might have to replace the connecting rod bolts. These bolts right here, and have the rods resized, and they could be reused once again. Let's see what else. The crankshaft is in good shape. Might need to be polished, but not necessary. So overall, this engine it looked pretty good for 300,000 miles. With the cylinder head, there was all kinds of problems. So yeah, I was kind of surprised, but I kind of wasn't. I was surprised by the ring gap, since it was different from each cylinder, and it might probably had something to do with the water pump. That was didn't have any metal blades left on it, so the engine could have been running hotter on one side than the other, and that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to save all the usable parts. I'm actually gonna use this engine for another test that I thought about doing last night. So you'll probably see this engine once again. And on that note, the idiot neighbors are here, as you could hear by the blaring music. That's going to be it for today, and have a good day.